Good evening, and welcome to the 28th Annual Henry L. Stimson Award Medal. Especially want to welcome the colleagues, friends, and family of our award winners. We had hoped to have a live presentation ceremony again this year, but obviously that could not be the case. Nevertheless, we're going to move forward, and I think the program will be as great as ever. We're truly appreciative of your participation by video, and we ask your patience with any glitches in the course of the presentation. My name is Mark Hellerer. I'm chairman of the Stimson Medal Committee, a partner in the law firm of Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman, and a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. Tonight is truly a special night. It marks the 28th time that the City Bar Association has honored the men and women of the U.S. Attorney's offices in the Southern and Eastern Districts of New York for their outstanding dedication, their sacrifices, and their service, not only to the City of New York, but to the nation as a whole. We do this by honoring 2 AUSAs, 1 civil division and 1 criminal division from each of the 2 offices, for upholding the best traditions of excellence and integrity established by Henry L. Stimson starting back in 1906, over 100 years ago. It's my honor first to introduce the speakers and winners. Our keynote speaker tonight is the Honorable Robert B. Fisk, Jr., former U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York. Our presenter will be Sheila Boston, the president of the City Bar Association, and of course our winners. In the Eastern District, in the Civil Division, Karin Klapper Orenstein. In the Criminal Division, Amy Busa. And then in the Southern District, Ellen Blain in the Civil Division, and Michael Gerber in the Criminal Division. We have a number of honored guests this evening. Certainly the U.S. attorneys in both districts, Audrey Strauss in the Southern District and Seth Ducharme in the Eastern District. And I want to give a special shout out to John McEnady in the Southern District and Bill Muller in the Eastern District, who year after year have really helped us shepherd through the process of determining the winners. We also have a number of former AUSAs, and hopefully we may be able to identify some of them later in the evening. Next, let me give you a brief background on the Stimson Medal. The medal was initiated by the Bar Association in 1992, and it honors the memory of Henry L. Stimson, who was the United States Attorney in the Southern District of New York from 1906 to 1909, after his appointment by Theodore Roosevelt. Stimson later continued his distinguished career in public service, serving 3 presidents as Secretary of War, President Taft, President Frederick Delano Roosevelt, and President Truman, and 1 as Secretary of State for President Hoover. Nevertheless, as Felix Frankfurter, one of Stimson's first assistants at the U.S. Attorney's Office, stated in his oral history, back in 1906 in the U.S. Attorney's Office, Stimson inherited an office which by tradition up till that time was, with negligible exceptions, manned by hacks and mere job holders. To address this situation, Stimson radically changed the system and professionalized the office. He asked the deans of leading law schools to recommend to him promising recent graduates. He tripled the staff by paying salaries 1/3 the previous size, and counted on the rewards of public service to attract enthusiastic and able young lawyers. The standards of excellence and integrity on which he insisted remain the hallmark of the offices today, both in the Southern and Eastern District of New York. The award began 28 years ago, and the moving force was Ted Clark, former president of the City Bar Association, who in his own right was an outstanding litigator at the Winthrop Stimson law firm where he in fact had worked with Stimson years ago. Ted passed away several years ago, but always was a stalwart proponent of the award, as well as its initiator. The purpose of the award is to honor Stimson's memory and promote the principles that he initiated at the U.S. Attorney's Office. Those principles, which are the criteria for determining the award recipients, are the following: outstanding contributions to public service, absolute integrity, candor and fairness in dealing with adversaries in the court, highly developed professional skills, and personal courage and conviction. The medal itself was created for the award. It's cast from a sculpture by Paul Manship at the Century Club, and it's supported by a contribution from my law firm, Pillsbury Winthrop Shaw Pittman, which is the successor to the Stimson firm. Now, the committee that chooses the award winners includes the president of the City Bar Association, Sheila Boston, the executive director of the association, Brett Parker, the chair of the Federal Courts Committee, who this year is Harry Standick from the Patterson-Belknap law firm, Stephen Weiner, the original chair of the committee, who is a retired partner at Pillsbury, and Susan J. Coleman, who is a City Bar vice president and a partner at Jenner and Block. The selection is based on nominations from the U.S. attorneys. And believe me, this is always a very, very difficult task because all the nominees presented by the U.S. attorneys are true stars in their own right with extraordinary accomplishments. Before we turn to our keynote address, let's take a moment to look back at what's happened to some of the winners since they took home the award. There have been a number of truly extraordinary accomplishments. Many people have continued their work in the Southern and Eastern districts in leadership positions. Others have taken responsibility at major law firms and public companies, and still others have gone on to other public service positions. To name a few of those currently in public service, Judge Richard Sullivan serves on the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. 3 winners, Kathy Seibel, Paul Gardefee, and Valerie Caproni, serve as judges in the Southern District. Sean Lane serves as a Southern District bankruptcy judge, while James Cott serves as a magistrate judge in the Southern District, and Cheryl Pollack as a magistrate judge in the Eastern District. Recent winners, Andrew Goldsmith, Zainab Ahmed, along with Greg Andres, a former winner, served as members of the Robert Mueller Special Counsel investigation team. In fact, Greg Andres led the trial team in the Paul Manafort trial and conviction. Linda Lacewell serves as the superintendent of the New York State Department of Financial Services. Richard Weber now serves with her as general counsel of the New York State Department of Financial Services, and formerly was the chief of the IRS Criminal Investigation Division. Margaret Garnett serves as the commissioner of the New York City Department of Investigation. Elizabeth Glazer is the director of the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice. And let's turn then to people who have had past public service positions. 3 of our Stimson Medal Award winners, Alan Weingrad, James Comey, and David Kelly, went on to become the U.S. Attorney for the Eastern or Southern District. And a 4th, Richard Donahue, served as U.S. Attorney in the Eastern District until recently, when he was appointed Principal Associate Deputy Attorney General of the United States. Patrick Fitzgerald formerly served as the U.S. Attorney in Chicago and was the Department of Justice Special Counsel in the Scooter Libby matter. Leslie Caldwell served as the Assistant Attorney General in charge of the Criminal Division at the Department of Justice and head of the Enron Task Force. Greg Andres, Jack Smith, Marshall Miller, Sung-Hee Soo, and David Bitkower all formerly held top positions in the criminal division of the Department of Justice. Rob Khuzami served as head of the enforcement division at the SEC and then as Deputy United States Attorney in the Southern District. Eric Horngold and Dieter Snell held leadership positions at the New York Attorney General's office. And as most of you know, one of our first year winners was James Comey, who served as director of the FBI and formerly Deputy Attorney General of the United States Department of Justice. So as you can see, tonight's winners are a highly select group of dedicated public servants. So first of all, let me now turn to the introduction of our keynote speaker, Robert Fisk Jr. We're extremely pleased to have him as our speaker this evening. Bob is a living legend in the New York bar. Not only is a great trial lawyer and bar leader, but particularly for his service as U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and as special prosecutor in the Clinton Whitewater investigation. In addition to those notable public interest appointments, Bob was a partner at Davis Polk and Wardwell from 1964 until just a few years ago, when he became a senior counsel at the firm. And during that time, he tried a wide variety of major civil and criminal cases, but we're going to have to leave those for another day. Bob obtained his BA from Yale University and a JD from the University of Michigan, where he was an associate editor of the Law Review. After several years as an associate at Davis Polk, he became an AUSA in the Southern District of New York in 1957. He served there for 4 years, during which he tried several highly publicized cases. After spending a number of years practicing at Davis Polk, following his departure from the office, he returned as U.S. Attorney in 1976. As U.S. Attorney, Bob personally led the government trial team in the trial of Nicky Barnes, at that time called Mr. Untouchable, the kingpin of the illegal narcotics world and the head of the Council, an organized crime syndicate. He was deemed untouchable because he had been acquitted in a number of previous criminal trials. At the instigation of President Carter, the Attorney General actually asked Bob to lead the trial team himself because of the importance of the case. After a tough 3-month trial, Barnes, along with his associates, convicted Barnes, along with 10 associates, and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Later, Barnes joined the Federal Witness Protection Program and testified for the government in a number of cases. Bob also personally led the investigation and trial that ended in the bribery conviction of Anthony Scotto, a labor union leader and alleged member of the Gambino crime family, in the major labor racketeering case of that era. Beyond his trial work, to this day, Bob is revered by the former AUSAs in his office for his leadership and direction. Audrey Strauss, the current U.S. Attorney, is one of his former assistants. He was a magnificent leader in the mold of Henry Stimson. Upon leaving the office in 1980, Bob returned to Davis Polk, and through his extensive trial and defense work over the years, is credited with starting the trend of major big law firms to establish white-collar criminal defense practices. But in January 1994, public service called again. Attorney General Janet Reno appointed Bob as a special prosecutor to investigate the Clinton Whitewater controversy and the death of White House counsel Vincent Foster. She did so even though Bob was a Republican. Thereafter, he conducted an intense investigation and released an interim report on June 30th that, in summary, concluded that the President, Bill Clinton, and White House officials had not interfered in the Resolution Trust Corporation, which was investigating the failed Madison Guarantee Savings and Loan, a partner of the Whitewater Development Corporation. His report also concluded that Vince Foster committed suicide. On the same day that Bob released the report, President Clinton signed the Independent Counsel Reauthorization Act of 1994, effectively abolishing the position of special prosecutor and replacing it with the position of independent counsel. Under the new law, a special division of the DC Circuit had sole authority to select independent counsels. Janet Reno once again formally requested that Bob be chosen and allowed to continue the investigation. However, the special division decided to replace Bob with former Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. Circuit Court Judge Kenneth Starr. And I believe that you are all familiar with the consequent developments. Bob is a past president of the American College of Trial Lawyers and the Federal Bar Council, and he is the recipient of many awards, including the following: the Federal Bar Council's Emery Buckner Award for Distinguished Public Service, the Whitney North Seymour Award for Outstanding Public Service by a Private Practitioner, the American Lawyer Lifetime Achievement Award, the American Inns of Court Lewis Powell Award for Professionalism and Ethics, the New York City Bar Association Medal, and the Fordham Stein Prize. On both of these latter two awards, Bob joined the company of multiple Supreme Court judges as awardees. For those of you who would like to learn more about the details of Bob's many trials and about serving as a prosecutor in that era, I highly recommend that you pick up Bob's book entitled Prosecutor, Defender, Counselor, The Memoirs of Robert B. Fisk, Jr. We are truly grateful to have Bob today as our keynote speaker. Bob?
Thank you, Mark, for that very generous introduction and also for the plug for the book. It is an honor for me to be able to deliver the keynote address at this year's Stimson Award ceremony. As Mark indicated, Henry Stimson had been U.S. Secretary of War under Presidents Taft, Theodore Roosevelt, and Franklin Roosevelt, Secretary of State under President Hoover, but for him, the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York was the best public service job. It has always been my first love, he said in a biography. I felt then, and I still feel, that there is no other public office which makes such a direct and inspiring call upon the conscience and professional zeal of a high-minded lawyer as that office, or in which courageous effort and steady poise brings such a sense of satisfaction to the occupant. That is a sentiment that I am sure has been shared by every Southern District U.S. attorney since Stimson, and I'm sure that our Eastern District counterparts feel the same way about their office. And as to Eastern District counterparts, thanks to Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, who broke tradition and allowed 3 Republican-appointed U.S. attorneys to finish out their 4-year terms under President Carter, I was very fortunate to spend 4 years working very collegially and very cohesively with 2 great U.S. attorneys, David Traeger and Ed Corman. We became good friends. David asked me to be the speaker at his farewell dinner, and with Ed, we developed a system of regular lunch meetings with our New Jersey counterpart, Bob Tartufo, to discuss matters of mutual interest and to work out the occasional turf battles that always arise. Over the years, these 2 districts have brought many of the most important cases prosecuted by the Department of Justice anywhere in the country. The Southern District has been the national leader in prosecuting financial crime ever since Bob Morgenthau established the first securities fraud unit in the 1960s. And both districts have prosecuted a number of significant gang violence, civil rights, and narcotic cases, including in the Eastern District, the leaders of the Colombian Cali and Medellin cartels and El Chapo, and in the Southern District, Frank Lucas, and as Mark referred to, Nicky Barnes, parenthetically, the only drug dealer I know to have had a front page obituary in the New York Times. But the three areas that stand out where both districts together have had the greatest impact, in my opinion, are terrorism, organized crime, and importantly, prosecutions that reflect independence from political considerations. With regard to terrorism, which might have ordinarily been prosecuted by Maine justice, it was recognized that both districts had special expertise and knowledge that made the important cases prosecuted more effectively in New York. The Southern District convicted 35 international terrorists, no acquittals, including 2 World Trade Center cases, the Blind Sheik case, a plot to blow up the bridges and tunnels between New York and New Jersey, the Manila Air case, a plot to blow up a dozen 747s flying to the U.S. from Asia, and the East African Embassy bombings. The Eastern District prosecuted a number of terrorism cases, including the DeFreitas case, a plot to blow up the Kennedy Airport, Najibullah Zazi and others who planned suicide bombings on the New York subways, Shahawar Shiraz, who planned to bomb the Herald Square subway station, and the Nafis case, a plot to bomb the Federal Reserve Building. The leadership of the Southern District and the Eastern District in these international terrorism cases changed the country's perspective on the gravity of these crimes and the threat they pose to national security. They raised the bar for the rest of the Department of Justice and demonstrated that criminal prosecutions in the federal courts could be successfully and fairly done, and resulted in scores of very dangerous defendants who played any role in a terrorism plot being convicted and prevented for life from engaging in that next massive bombing or assassination. The offices, through what was learned from those cases, also demonstrated to other parts of our government that we needed to use all of our intelligence, diplomatic, and military tools to address the long-term threat from international terrorism. And with respect to organized crime, while individual figures have been prosecuted by both districts over the years, the most significant organized attack on the mafia families themselves began in the Southern District in the 1980s when Rudy Giuliani came up with the idea of using the RICO statute against the leaders of all 5 mafia families, Genovese, Colombo, Lucchese, Gambino, and Bonanno, the so-called commission case. Many of you may have watched the Netflix documentary entitled Fear City, which describes that case in great detail. That, together with the so-called pizza case and prosecutions of the Genovese and Colombo families, put a major dent in the function of organized crime in New York City. Several years later, in a series of major prosecutions, the Eastern District dealt organized crime another significant blow. Starting in the 1990s, continuing to 2011, the Eastern District brought a series of successful prosecutions against the then leaders of each of the 5 families, obtaining convictions against John Gotti, Vic Musso, Phil Rastelli, Vincent the Chin Giganti, and Joseph Messino. At the time of his conviction in 2004, Messino was the only mafia boss still left at liberty, and accordingly, the most powerful La Cosa Nostra boss in the U.S. Through those prosecutions, the U.S. Attorney offices in the Eastern and Southern districts over different time periods helped to dismantle the mafia through relentless pursuit, innovative theories, and strategies aimed at the leadership of those families. Those prosecutions led to the defections of cooperating witnesses, including those at the highest levels, bosses, underbosses, consiglieres, who provided detailed accounts of the day-to-day criminal activities of the enterprises and the countless acts of violence, and cut to the core of the mafia's oath of omerta diminishing the reach and power of those families substantially. Finally, both districts are known for their tradition of prosecutions demonstrating complete independence from political considerations. Going back to my time working with them, David Traeger and Ed Corman initiated a corruption investigation during the Ford administration into the activities of Joseph Margiotta, at the time probably the most powerful Republican boss in the country, and he was convicted during Ed Corman's tenure. Also, while Ed was the U.S. Attorney during the Carter administration, he and Tom Puccio, in the so-called Abscam cases, convicted a Democratic U.S. Senator and 5 Democratic congressmen. In later years, Alan Weingrad prosecuted a Democratic city council member, and Loretta Lynch prosecuted 2 Democratic state senators during the Clinton administration. And Rob Capers, appointed by President Obama, initiated an aggressive investigation leading to the conviction of Democratic Suffolk County Police Chief James Burke, and subsequently under Rich Donahue, to the conviction of Democratic Suffolk County District Attorney Thomas Spota and Christopher McPartland, Chief of the Government Corruption Bureau in that office. In the Southern District, Bob Morgenthau, a staunch Democrat, prosecuted Carmine DeSapio, probably the most powerful Democrat in New York State. Mike Seymour, appointed by President Richard Nixon, indicted his Attorney General, John Mitchell. In the Mario Biaggi prosecution during the Reagan administration, Ed Little referred to the Attorney General, Ed Meese, as a sleaze. Mary Jo White, appointed by President Clinton, conducted an aggressive investigation into a number of his pardons, including Mark Rich, and prosecuted Democrat Rockland County District Attorney Ken Gribbets. Preet Bharara, appointed by President Obama, brought a number of prosecutions against 10 elected officials, 7 of them Democrats, including the Speaker of the State Assembly, and conducted a vigorous investigation into the circumstances surrounding Governor Andrew Cuomo's termination of a Moreland Act commission investigating public corruption. And most recently, during the Trump administration, during the tenures of Jeffrey Berman and Audrey Strauss, prosecutions have been brought against Michael Cohen, Republican Congressman Chris Collins, and Steve Bannon. With respect to the civil division, I've always thought that one of the most exciting aspects of litigating civil division cases was that they include some of the most important legal issues litigated anywhere. I can think of no better demonstration of that fact that during my 4-year term as U.S. Attorney, our civil division had 5 cases that they litigated in the District Court and Court of Appeals go on to the United States Supreme Court. The major focus of both civil divisions over the years has been significant affirmative action litigation, creating results which have greatly benefited the public in a wide variety of areas. These include employment discrimination cases, housing discrimination cases, environmental cases to enforce the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act, and cases under the Americans with Disability Act. In addition, the Eastern District has brought civil actions obtaining multi-billion-dollar settlements in RMBS cases against Deutsche Bank, Citigroup, Nomura, and Bank of America, and the Southern District has obtained multi-million-dollar settlements from Deutsche Bank, Citi Mortgage, and Bank of America. The Southern District has won civil RICO cases against several unions, including the Teamsters, Carpenters, and the ILA. The Eastern District has brought major forfeiture cases, paralleling the criminal cases in the FIFA soccer case and the El Chapo narcotics prosecution. The $12.7 billion forfeiture in that case being the largest money judgment against an individual in that district's history. The Eastern District recently reached a settlement with New York City, which established that nurses and midwives were entitled to retire early because their work was physically taxing, resulting in payments up to $125,000 per individual. And the Southern District recently obtained an historic settlement of a lawsuit against the New York City Housing Authority, requiring the city, under the supervision of a federal monitor, to pay billions of dollars to remedy sanitary living conditions and for violating lead paint regulations. And ever since J. Edward Lombard and Leonard Moore took over the two districts as the first United States attorneys in the Eisenhower administration, they both went on to become Second Circuit judges, Lombard becoming the chief judge. A hallmark of both offices has been that hiring is done totally on professional merit without regard to party affiliation. No more graphic demonstration of this can be found in the following colloquy between newly appointed U.S. Attorney Bob Morgenthau and the powerful Democratic boss, Bronx Democratic boss Charles Buckley at the start of the Kennedy administration. Buckley, obviously thinking back to the pre-Lombard era. Bob, congratulations on your appointment as U.S. Attorney. I'm sending you down a couple of boys. Morgenthau, fine, Charlie. Have them send their applications in to Silmalo. Buckley, Bob, you don't understand. I said I'm sending you a couple of boys. Morgenthau, Charlie, you don't understand. I said, have them send their applications into Silmalo. End of discussion. End of attempted political influence. So what does it mean to be an assistant U.S. attorney in either one of these districts? At a black tie dinner in 1989, commemorating the 200th anniversary of the Southern District of New York, attended by every United States attorney since 1953, starting with Judge Lombard and several hundred assistant U.S. attorneys, every U.S. attorney was asked to say a few words. When it was his turn, my predecessor, Paul Karin, told a very appreciative audience, the second best job in the country is being a United States attorney. The best job is being an assistant United States attorney. And we all knew exactly what he meant. At another black tie dinner in April 2011, celebrating the 35th anniversary of my appointment as United States attorney, I put it this way to the over 100 former assistants who had gathered for the occasion. What is it that makes being an assistant U.S. attorney such a remarkable experience that brings all of us together tonight? It is the great gratification that comes from the accomplishments achieved. In the criminal division, trying high-profile cases against the best criminal defense lawyers in the country. In the civil division, litigating cases involving important policy questions affecting the welfare of a large number of citizens around the country, cases on the cutting edge of the law. What law firm in 4 years has 5 cases that go to the United States Supreme Court? But that is only part of it. It is the esprit de corps that comes from being a part of a group of team players whose only objective is to do the right thing for the benefit of the public. It is from this kind of experience that lifelong friendships are formed that produce the kind of turnout we have here tonight. I want to congratulate Karin Klapper Orenstein, Amy Busa, Ellen Blaine, and Michael Gerber for being selected to receive this year's Stimson Awards. Listening to Mark talk about the list of prior recipients who have received this award highlights what an exceptional honor this is. In receiving it, you stand on the shoulders of the many assistants over the years who have done so much good for the country, as reflected in their many accomplishments, some of which I have tried to describe here tonight. The powerfully strong tradition of professional excellence and political independence is something that alumni of both offices are extremely proud of. And it is gratifying for all of us to know that you and the highly dedicated Assistant U.S. attorneys that you represent today are there in both offices to continue that tradition going forward. Congratulations to all of you.
Thank you, Bob. We really appreciate your remarks. You've lived through the years of history with both districts and the incredible accomplishments that they both achieved and the traditions that they've maintained throughout all these years. So thank you very much for being with us tonight.
Sure.
Next, let me introduce Sheila Boston, the president of the City Bar Association, to present the awards. Sheila began her reign as City Bar president this past June in the middle of the pandemic. She has already demonstrated her strong leadership skills as she has guided the organization through the transition into our new virtual world. Although the City Bar building largely remains closed, the City Bar has been operating on all cylinders, including committee work, CLE programs, and the many services provided by the City Bar Justice Center, and a major presentation series on the rule of law. As the first woman of color to become president of the City Bar, Sheila is also keenly aware of the importance of this moment in the history of seeking racial justice. She is deeply committed to the City Bar's efforts to achieve the goals of real diversity and racial understanding. By way of background, Sheila is a litigation partner at Arnold & Porter K. Scholler, specializing in mass torts, products liability, and other complex litigation. She's a graduate of Princeton University and Columbia Law School. Sheila has been active in the City Bar since her days as a junior associate, including service as chair of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and on the executive committee as vice president and secretary. She has also served multiple positions with the Federal Bar Council, including board chair, vice president, and trustee, and as president of the Federal Bar Council Inn of Court. She has also held significant positions in a number of other bar organizations, including service as a member of the Board of Governors of the National Bar Association. We welcome Sheila to present the awards on behalf of the City Bar Association.
Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And good evening to all of you, my beloved New York City Bar Association, as well as the friends and families of our awardees this evening. Welcome to our City Bar. So I'm excited about tonight. It is just such an honor and pleasure in these proceedings to be here recognizing the next 4 rising stars of the Eastern and Southern districts. Also, to just be able to share this virtual stage with the one and only Robert B. Fisk Jr., one whom I consider to be a gentleman as well as a scholar. I also am excited to be here with our wonderful Stimson Medal Committee Chair, Mark Hellerer. So thank you. And Bob, you mentioned someone dear to me. You mentioned the name of Paul Karin. He was my partner for maybe 2 years. I got in there just in time to be able to say that he was my partner, and I loved him dearly, and I had the utmost respect for him. Well, I want all of you to know that this program means a lot to me, and for several reasons. On a personal note, I have family members who are in law enforcement. So I think I have a feel for the kind of commitment, temperament, wisdom, and discretion it takes for you to achieve on your jobs. On a more professional level, when I began my tenure a few months ago as City Bar President, I outlined 6 areas on which our association would especially focus. And this program dovetails with 2 of them: access to justice and protection of the rule of law. What I know is that access to justice is not guaranteed, and the rule of law, frankly, does not protect itself. Rather, our justice system is only as good as the people who make it work. And proof that you four are good people is that you are receiving the Henry L. Stimson Medal, which stands for integrity, fairness, courage, and public service. And here's some breaking news. Didn't know if you know it, but we are in need of good people now more than ever. And this event, it is a testament to the fact that the good people pipeline, if you will, is thriving and well. When you look at the extraordinary list of those who have received the Stimson Medal in the past, it is with tremendous excitement that we announce the newest names to join them and look forward to their accomplishments in the future. Now, for those of you who may have never seen it before, I want to show you. All right, even virtually, I hope you see it. This is the Henry L. Stimson Award, or medal. It's a medal, as you can see. Each one of you will be receiving it soon. And on the back is engraved your name, and it says, for outstanding contribution to the office of the United States Attorney, given in memory of Henry L. Stimson by the Association of the Bar of the City of New York. So, without further ado, let's get on with it, shall we? First to the stage, the virtual stage, we have Karin Klapper Orenstein, part of the Civil Division in the Eastern District. Hi, Karin, I know you well. It's good to see you. Okay. Karin is a graduate of Cornell University with distinction and of Michigan Law School, where she was an editor of the Law Review. Before joining the office in 2008, she was a litigator in 3 different firms: Freed, Stillman, Friedman, and Schechtman, and Sullivan and Worcester. I always have trouble with that name, I'm sorry. Okay. She also served as a special assistant district attorney in the Kings County District Attorney's Office. As a member of the Civil Division's Asset Forfeiture Unit, the office's first ever cultural property coordinator and former criminal division member, Karin has repeatedly distinguished herself by leading criminal financial investigations, handling sophisticated victim restitution issues, developing an expertise in cutting-edge cryptocurrency and domain seizures, and building the Justice Department's premier cultural property practice. Karin's service in the Asset Forfeiture Unit since 2012 has focused on maximizing returns to victims and ensuring a fair process. In the Callahan case, she led the office's effort to return $44 million in forfeited funds to Ponzi scheme victims, constituting 75% of their losses. She combined a mastery of applicable law and a keen understanding of administrative procedure to both accelerate and maximize the victim's recovery. In the Brooks case, she played a leading role in securing and implementing a global settlement and facilitating the distribution to victims of over $140 million in civilly forfeited funds, which was 90% of their recognized losses. In the Raniere matter, she secured the forfeiture of $7 million from 5 defendants engaged in a pyramid scheme that involved forced servitude and sex trafficking. Karin was also a member of the team that dismantled 2 international cybercrime rings, thereby ending an advertising fraud scheme that used botnets to cause tens of millions of dollars in losses. Her role included freezing millions of dollars in foreign bank accounts, seizing over 30 domain sites, and diverting traffic to government-controlled sites. Karin has now been tasked with coordinating the unit's response to COVID-19 fraud and price gouging. Karin is perhaps best known for her work in combating illicit cultural property trafficking and returning stolen pieces to their true owners. As the Justice Department's leading expert in the field, she has filed multiple civil actions to forfeit stolen cultural property, including Egyptian and Italian antiquities, a Mongolian dinosaur fossil, and a Picasso painting that had been stolen from a French museum. These cases resulted in the repatriation of the stolen cultural property to the victimized foreign countries. Her most celebrated case involved thousands of Iraqi artifacts imported by crafts retailer Hobby Lobby stores, which was required to forfeit all improperly imported pieces, pay $3 million, and submit to a novel remedial compliance program. The forfeited artifacts were returned to Iraq at a repatriation ceremony in Washington, D.C. So, we honor Karin's extraordinary service to the public interest by awarding her the one and only Stimson Medal. Congratulations, Karin. Let's hear from you now. So proud of you.
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you so much. And thank you, Bob Fisk, for those wonderful remarks. And thank you, Mark Heller and the Stimson Medal Committee. And congratulations to Amy, Ellen, and Michael. I thank the City Bar for making this ceremony virtual, which enabled many people to attend who otherwise might not have been able to. And while I can't see you all out there, I thank you for sharing this moment. Especially my family members who, as I grew up, became my friends. My friends who became my family. And of course, my Eastern District family made up of the current and former members of the office I am so proud to be a part of. When I received word from Bill Muller that I was being nominated for this award, I was speechless. It is a humbling thing to be recognized in this way. And I was touched to know that the leadership of my office saw in me the qualities that are recognized by this award. In the words of the Passover song, Dayenu, the nomination would have been enough for me. So the fact that I'm here virtually, well, I'm very grateful. The Stimson Medal is an honor, not only because of those excellent public servants who received it in the past and are receiving it alongside me, but because of the man it is named for. One of Henry L. Stimson's lasting legacies is the Nuremberg Trials. At the close of World War II, there were two options facing the Allies. The first was summary execution of the surviving Nazi leaders, which was supported by Winston Churchill and President Roosevelt's Secretary of Treasury. The second option was trials with all of their legal protections, which was championed by Henry L. Stimson, then the Secretary of War. President Roosevelt and history sided with Stimson. And so Henry L. Stimson is remembered for his commitment to fairness and integrity in the face of righteous anger. We live in interesting times. We live in a world where many lay claim to righteous anger. But we in the legal community follow Henry L. Stimson's example. The means of justice must themselves be just, or we will be judged by history. I, my fellow honorees, my colleagues in the Eastern District and across the department, and many of you out there, once took an oath to defend the Constitution. In these times, we are reminded every day that our country's well-being depends on us living up to that oath, with fairness, with integrity, and without regard to political or personal agendas. There are many people I would like to thank for enabling me to be here today. At my office, I must begin by thanking Brendan King and Brian Morris, who recruited me to the Asset Forfeiture Unit. They, together with our chief, Laura Mantell, have been terrific teachers, mentors, and supporters of my work. I thank former ED&Wire Kathy Nandon and our civil chief, Susan Riley, who thought that Brendan and Brian were onto something and asked me to run with the Cultural Property Program. I've had the pleasure of serving under, and I'm grateful to, multiple U.S. attorneys, but I want to thank in particular Ben Campbell, who hired me in the criminal division, Loretta Lynch, who supported my joining the Asset Forfeiture Unit and building the cultural property practice, and Rich Donahue, who nominated me for this award. To my old general crimes colleague, Seth Ducharme, you have nothing to do with this, but I am happy that you are back home and leading us with a steady hand. As many AUSAs know, the agents we work with can make all the difference in what work we are able to accomplish and how well we do it. I would like to thank HSI Special Agent Brent Easter, who made my cultural property career possible. Turning to my family, I would like to thank my parents, Oliver and Susan Klapper, who instilled in me a sense of fair play and honest dealings, and who I hope figured out Zoom tonight. I would also like to thank my kids, Fanny and Rosie, whose pride in my cultural property work is as gratifying as a thank you from a foreign dignitary any day. I've appeared before and have had the pleasure of knowing many wonderful judges who inspire me with both their minds and their hearts. But my favorite is the one I could never appear before. My biggest cheerleader and my best friend, who learned how to cook for our family when I was in general crimes and never stopped. Thank you, Jamie, for everything. I'm grateful to have a job, as Bob mentioned, where I get up every morning with the goal of doing the right thing. For 12 years, I've put my nose down, worked hard to do what's right, and never really knew how my efforts were perceived. To me, the Stimson Medal is an enormous and unexpected sign of respect for me and for my work. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and I thank you.
Yay, Karen! I'm sorry, I have to do the clapping for everybody. Okay. Kevin, if I can come back on the screen. It's time for our next awardee. The next awardee will be Amy Busa, Criminal Division from the Eastern District. We're gonna let Karen go visit her family and get the hugs and the kisses.
How about I speak for a second so it focuses on me?
That's okay. All right, here we go.
I'm here.
Next is Amy Busa from the Criminal Division of the Eastern District. Amy graduated from the University of Virginia with high honors and from Harvard Law School magna cum laude. She joined the office in November 2004, following 2 judicial clerkships with Judge D. Brock Hornby in the District of Maine and Judge Chester J. Straub in the Second Circuit. She also worked as a litigation associate at the Kramer-Levin firm. Amy has served in a number of supervisory roles in the office. In 2008, she was appointed Deputy Chief of the Organized Crime Section. From 2014 until the present, she has been Deputy Chief of the Criminal Appeals Division. At the same time, from May 2018 to the present, she has also served as both the Chief of Intake and Deputy Chief of the General Crimes Section. Amy's investigative skills and leadership have been particularly exemplified by her investigation and successful prosecution of numerous members and associates of all 5 organized crime families of La Cosa Nostra. For example, in 2006, she was part of the trial team that secured the conviction of Vincent Bassiano, acting boss of the Bonanno family, for serious racketeering crimes, including conspiracy to murder and attempted murder. She subsequently engaged in a series of prosecutions against successive waves of leadership of the Bonanno family, resulting in the crippling of the enterprise. The convictions she obtained on racketeering charges included predicate acts of conspiracy to murder, drug trafficking, extortion, loan sharking, and fraud. Amy also served as lead prosecutor in United States v. Michael Coppola, a case against a captain in the Genovese family. He was convicted of participating in a 30-year racketeering conspiracy involving longstanding efforts to control the New Jersey waterfront through extortion and fraud. She also supervised prosecutions involving the Genovese, Gambino, Colombo, and Bonanno crime families that were part of the office's 2011 single-day operation against 100 members of La Cosa Nostra. Amy has also argued over 15 appeals in the Second Circuit, including a number with legal significance, and has written and edited numerous appellate briefs. She's been overwhelmingly successful in upholding the government's position in that court. In addition to her important investigative, trial, and appellate work, Amy has been a superb supervisor. In her position as Intake Chief and Deputy Chief of General Crimes, she supervises the caseload of prosecutors handling a huge variety of criminal prosecutions. She has also worked to strengthen the office's relationship with its agency partners and increase the number and type of cases brought by the office. In this role, she's on call 24/7, which sometimes results in advising Assistant U.S. attorneys and federal agents in the middle of the night. She's also helped the office, its partner agencies, and the court develop procedures to handle arrests and arraignments during the COVID-19 crisis. As a tireless public servant and an exemplary office leader, Amy is certainly a most worthy recipient of the Stimson Medal. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here on the virtual stage, the one and only Amy Busa.
Hi, thank you so much. I am incredibly honored and humbled by this award. I would like to thank the New York City Bar and the Stimson Medal Committee for considering me and selecting me for this. I mean, I'm just absolutely stunned by it. And I want to say congratulations to all the other medal recipients. It's amazing to share the stage with you. To me, this is a shared award with all those who've encouraged and supported me throughout my career, from the judges for whom I've clerked, from the good folks at Kramer Levin that I worked with before I came to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and focusing on my time within the office. There are far too many people to thank. I'd go on for hours, so I'll keep it brief. But I'd like to thank my supervisors, the people who second sat me, my trial partners, my fellow supervisors in organized crime, general crimes, and appeals, the support staff who ably support me so well, despite the challenges that I present them every day, our front office who've done a fantastic job of leading us through this pandemic, which has been one surprise and challenge after another, the agents that I've worked with, and most importantly, my supervisees, especially those in general crimes. I've cherished my time with all of you and have learned so much from each of you. I would also like to thank my family. You perhaps can hear one of them in the background. My husband and my children, Donato and Nico, for all their support and encouragement and understanding throughout the years when mommy has to work or gets crazy calls at odd hours of the night. I'd also like to thank my mom, who raised me by herself, sometimes working 2 to 3 jobs to make sure I had every opportunity that she could possibly give me. And I'd like to thank Vincent Flanagan, who's been like a big brother to me. Between he and my mother, they've taught me so much about learning to do the right thing, to help other people, and to stay grounded, especially when things get difficult. The remainder of my remarks today are actually for our newest assistants, our general crimes class, and the people who have graduated there within the last couple of years, who I've had the pleasure and privilege to supervise. I think Karin alluded to this, and as did Bob Fisk, these are challenging times we're in. There are criticisms of what we do from prominent politicians. There are accusations of politicization in main justice. We've lived through shutdowns. There are protests of people seeking justice for all in the criminal justice system, and that we have to, as prosecutors, wrestle with every day where we fall in that system and how we can help with that movement forward. And there's also been recently a spike of shootings in our city. And despite all of that, each day, all of us do our best to help, all now amid a global pandemic, sometimes often from like a 1-bedroom apartment or something even smaller. So I'd like to say to our newest assistants that, we've faced challenging times before in the history of our nation, and our office and its assistants have always risen above the challenges or the political situation, often while making great personal sacrifices to do their job without fear or favor, because they believe in the work and our mission, and most importantly, in seeking justice and helping others. So for our newest AUSAs, remember, even in challenging times, the government can be a force for good, both civilly and criminally, whether rooting out discrimination or making neighborhoods safer, by tackling the scourge of gun violence, by bringing to justice those who prey upon children or the most vulnerable, by prosecuting those who would defraud people out of their retirement funds or steal their benefits checks. Every day we make a real difference in our neighbors' lives. We bring hope where hope has been lost, and we shine a light in the darkness. So I'd like to encourage all of you to look at where your colleagues and the shoulder of the giants we stand upon, what they've accomplished and continue to accomplish each day, and be inspired by it as I am. I think that's likely what this award commemorates. It's in the memory of a person who dedicated his life to public service and wasn't afraid to make hard choices in difficult times, whether, as Karin mentioned, advocating for trying Nazi war criminals properly and fairly, or in other aspects of by refusing to recognize, for example, territorial changes that were accomplished by force. And I'm not pretending that our general crimes cases rise to this level, far from it. But the takeaway for me is this, is that we need to persevere through these challenges and do what we believe is just. And that's the spirit that I've seen in all of you who've been in general crimes recently. And so what I would leave you with, our newest assistants, is this. Remember to be true to your oath, to follow the law and the facts, to do your best every day, to help and support each other, to speak up if you see an injustice, to spend time with your family and your loved ones, and most importantly, to remember your mission to do justice. I can't wait to see what you accomplish. Thanks again to everyone who has supported me, and thanks again to the Stimson Medal Committee for this wonderful award.
Yay, Amy! Congratulations to you. So very proud of you. And Kevin, if I can come up for a quick moment, I want to make sure that I at least virtually hand Amy her medal. Let's see what we can do. I know you can hear me.
You're good.
We're good? Okay, here is the medal. Handing it to you now, Amy. Congratulations yet again. Okay, we next have, coming to the stage, Ellen Blaine from the Civil Division of the Southern District of New York. Ellen is a graduate of Yale University with distinction and UC Berkeley Law School. She joined the Civil Division of the office in January, following a judicial clerkship with Judge Kiyo Matsumoto in the Eastern District, and worked with two firms, Schulte, Roth & Zabel and Spears & Imes, as a litigation associate. In January 2017, she was appointed Deputy Chief of the Civil Rights Unit and was promoted to Co-Chief of the unit in 2018. The groundbreaking cases that Ellen has brought have had sweeping effects on many New Yorkers. In one case, she filed suit under the Americans with Disabilities Act against the Metropolitan Transit Authority and New York City Transit for their failure to install elevators during a subway station renovation. She prevailed last year on a motion for summary judgment, with the court ruling that such an installation was required regardless of cost, unless it was technically not feasible to do so. That decision has the potential to require the MTA to install elevators in every station that it renovates across the city. This year, Ellen achieved another remarkable result. After a 3-year effort, she has ensured that New York City's newest public landmark, the Vessel in Hudson Yards, a multi-story, open-air structure composed of 80 platforms connected by 154 stairways, is accessible to individuals with disabilities pursuant to the ADA. Through her formidable negotiating skills, she reached a settlement requiring the developer to install a one-of-a-kind platform lift, enabling wheelchair users and other handicapped persons to reach the top 2 levels of the vessel, where they too can enjoy 360-degree views along with millions of able-bodied visitors. Ellen has also made New York City's streets more accessible. Thanks in part to her work, the city has recently committed to a large-scale construction plan to fix uneven sidewalks and instill ADA-compliant curb cuts across all 5 boroughs. She also brought and settled a suit under the Fair Housing Act against Co-op City, ensuring that individuals with disabilities are entitled to reasonable accommodations and obtaining over $500,000 for victims. Ellen also brought the first criminal civil rights charge in the Southern District of New York based on a prison sexual assault. In that case, the defendant corrections officer pleaded guilty to violating the constitutional civil rights of the female inmate whom he had attacked. In addition, She brought the first case in the Southern District under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, obtaining damages for service members whose vehicles were unlawfully repossessed while they were on active duty. It is with great pleasure that we are able to recognize Ellen's exemplary service to New York citizens and others by awarding her the Stimson Medal. Sorry to get tongue-tied there. Let me do this again. Ellen, congratulations on the Stimson Medal. Yay!
Thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Mark. Thank you to the City Bar Council for this incredible honor. And thank you too to everyone attending this event via Zoom during such strange times. Let me take you back to a different time. When Preet Bharara was a brand new U.S. attorney, I was in his office and the first round of AUSA applicants he'd ever interviewed. And he shared some hiring advice that he'd received from the great Bob Morgenthau. What was this sage counsel? Hire actors. I smiled and said, so do I get the job? You see, as Preet knew from my resume, I was a professional actor from the age of 7 to 23. I appeared in all sorts of middling TV shows and movies, and sometimes I think the only reason Preet hired me was because I was in Hangin' with Mr. Cooper and Encino Man. But I don't want to guess why SDNY may have needed former actors. I want to tell you why this former actor needed SDNY. Many people ask why someone who at age 11 moved from Texas to California to pursue a Hollywood dream would leave that life to pursue public service. One reason, the example set by my family. They don't believe in the spotlight. They believe in service. My great-grandmother was the second woman elected to statewide office in Texas. The first was elected 2 weeks earlier. My grandma was one of the first women admitted to UT Medical School. My nearly blind grandfather enlisted in the Army the day he turned 18, memorizing the eye chart so he could pass the physical. A foot soldier in Patton's Army, he earned 2 gold stars before becoming a cardiologist. Don't worry, he wore glasses for that. My other grandfather also served in World War II and became a doctor. He wrote The Principles of Surgery, started the Weill Cornell Burn Trauma Center here in New York, was the chief of surgery in Dallas when JFK was shot, operated on Governor Connolly and Lee Harvey Oswald, and then helped invent the modern ambulance. Whereas my contribution to modern medicine was dying on both ER and Chicago Hope. So really, after college, when I learned what it was like to be an adult woman in Hollywood, I ran straight to law school, hoping to find some way to use the skills I'd learned for something bigger, for public service of some kind. When I learned what being an AUSA was, I thought I'd found the way, and I was right. But what I couldn't imagine and what I didn't ever expect was how freeing it could be. You see, I felt sort of stuck as a young lawyer, doing some cases I didn't particularly believe in or serving someone else's goals, like how I'd felt stuck as an actor, doing shows I didn't particularly like, saying someone else's lines. But being an AUSA is liberating. Your one goal is to do the right thing. All other considerations, personal preferences, needs, desires, much less whether you fit a particular part, are simply irrelevant, freeing you to serve only the law and the facts. What's more amazing is that you're entrusted to serve that lofty goal by using your own voice, writing your own lines. This freedom to do the right thing is, of course, what allows us to make a real impact. And that impact is humbling. Let me just highlight one case briefly. Westchester County Jail houses more than 1,000 inmates. And when we started our investigation into conditions in the jail, things were pretty grim. Use of force was routine, medical care was poor, minors languished for weeks in solitary confinement. But now, after many in the office have invested years of work, the jail is a completely transformed institution. It's become a national leader in rehabilitation, winning awards for its re-entry programs and treatment of inmates. There's more to do, but it means something that one former inmate recently wrote the jail to thank the staff. A former inmate thanked the staff of a jail for making her life better. Now, I know SDNY and EDNY are famous for those cases, but there is something that I think doesn't get enough credit. The people I work with, the people in the civil division, because I simply don't understand it. Everyone's supremely qualified, everyone's litigating at the highest levels in New York, everyone wants the good cases, but everyone's actually nice to each other. I could give you a million examples of CivDiv AUSAs and staff showing up for each other in ways big and small, personal and professional, but what it all adds up to is a culture of compassion. And these days, in this time of mistrust, the civil division's fundamental kindness has been, for me, a refuge. I have to think there's a connection between doing the right thing for justice and doing the right thing for each other. Navigating the past few years as civil rights chief has had some challenges, but I'm so proud to have seen firsthand SDNY's unwavering commitment to do the right thing, both in the cases we bring and in the cases we don't bring. And the reason we've been able to continue to do such good work is because of the truly inspiring leadership of Preet Bharara. Hi Preet, I think you're out there. June Kim, Jeffrey Berman, and now Audrey Strauss. I am so very honored to have served under each of you. One more leader requires a particular shout out, and that is our mysteriously unflappable civil chief, Jeff Ostreicher. He's seen us through 3, 2, 4, I don't remember how many shutdowns, a global pandemic, and some US attorney departures. So Jeff, thank you. Thank you too to my former CivDiv chiefs, James Cott, Andrew Schilling, and Sarah Shadovsky, to my deputies and friends, Neil Corwin, Sarah Norman, and Laura Ashkenazi, to my fill-in deputy and always friend, David Jones, to my fellow chiefs in civil rights, David Kennedy and Christine Piscobolo, to all the lawyers and staff in the civil division. Thank you to the Honorable Kyo Matsumoto, and to my early mentors, David Spears, Linda Imes, and Chris Dysert. To my dad, a lawyer. I know you're still shocked I'm a lawyer. Thank you for being my guide. To my mom, a single mom who drove me to all those auditions, thank you for not disowning me when I went to law school. To my husband, Brian, who I think I've banished from the room, thank you for everything. To my daughter, Lily, I'm so proud of you. One of the benefits of working from home has been you have been able to see me work so hard every day to try to do the right thing. And also apparently learn how I yell at many people, but know that you too can make a difference. And finally, these days, when some are questioning the value of service, I am particularly grateful to receive this award. I am incredibly honored and humbled. Thank you again.
Yay! Congratulations to you, Ellen. So proud of you. And let me virtually hand you your Stimson medal. Congratulations. Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. And last, but certainly not least of all, we have Michael Gerber from the Criminal Division of the Southern District of New York. Michael graduated from Harvard College, summa cum laude, and from Yale Law School, where he was an officer of the Yale Law Journal. He clerked for Judge Pierre Laval of the Second Circuit and Justice David Souter of the United States Supreme Court. After 4 years of service at the Wachtell Lipton firm, he joined the office in May 2012. Michael spent his first years in the office in the White Plains Division. That's where I live. Yay, White Plains. He prosecuted crimes in the counties north of New York City. He specialized in cases involving violence and drug trafficking, areas of prosecution where he would soon become a leader in the office. He obtained convictions of 14 defendants in one case and over 20 defendants in a second one. He also tackled the devastating impact that gang violence and narcotics trafficking were having on Sullivan County, where the office historically had a limited presence. In 2015, after building a team of FBI and local law enforcement agents and working hand in hand with the Sullivan County District Attorney's Office, Michael led the prosecution of 34 defendants involved in narcotics trafficking and firearms possession in Sullivan County. In 2015, Michael was assigned to the office's Violent and Organized Crime Unit, where he continued his work as one of the office's top murder prosecutors. In July 2016, Michael was named Deputy Chief of the Narcotics Unit and then was promoted to Co-Chief after 5 months. In these roles, he was tasked with supervising and training junior members of the office in a unit known for demanding constant attention and quick decision-making. As the opioid crisis was growing and the overdose death rate increasing at a staggering rate, Michael and his co-chief created the Overdose Death Initiative, which was designed to investigate and, where appropriate, prosecute those responsible for overdose deaths. This initiative has fundamentally changed drug enforcement in New York City and has resulted in the successful prosecution of dozens of drug dealers in connection with overdose deaths. Subsequently, Michael was named co-chief of the Violent and Organized Crime Unit in May 2017, where he continues to serve today. In that capacity, he supervises the day-to-day operations of approximately 20 prosecutors working on violent and organized crimes investigations and prosecutions. Michael has played a particularly important role in fostering the office's relationship with the New York Police Department, having helped to train more than 100 New York NYPD detectives regarding the building blocks of successful federal violence cases. Ladies and gentlemen, we honor Michael's extraordinary contributions to the pursuit of justice in both a line and supervisory capacity by awarding him the Stimson Medal. Please come to the virtual stage, Michael Gerber.
Thank you. Good evening. I want to begin by thanking the Stimson Medal Committee and the New York City Bar Association for this award. Several of the prior recipients are my mentors and friends. To be in their company is very humbling. I want to congratulate the other honorees. It is a privilege to share this evening with them. It is particularly special to hear from Bob Fisk, who represents, for so many of us, what a life in the law can be. I want to thank the members of the SDNY executive staff for their encouragement and guidance. I'm very grateful to the U.S. attorneys I've had the privilege to serve under: Preet Bharara, Jean Kim, Jeffrey Berman, and Audrey Strauss. I have been so fortunate over the years to have exceptional supervisors, to work with gifted colleagues, to partner with extraordinary co-chiefs. Thank you all. I am profoundly in your debt. The AUSAs I have been lucky enough to supervise are brilliant and tenacious and thoughtful and compassionate. They are great prosecutors, and I am so thankful to be able to work with them and learn from them. I want to thank my family, my parents, for being models of integrity and humility. My children, Sheila, Amalia, and Ezra, for their curiosity and their laughter. The work is serious, sometimes sad, but my kids are a source of unending happiness. I especially want to thank my wife, Namit. She has seen how much the work means to me, and she has sacrificed for that work. Her love means everything. Over the past 2 years, I've had the opportunity to help supervise SDNY's Violent and Organized Crime Unit, also known as VOC. VOC is composed of a remarkable group of prosecutors and paralegals who investigate and prosecute violent crime. While we charge many different types of cases, at the heart of what we do are murder cases, murders that would otherwise go unsolved forever. We work on these cases with a group of SDNY special agents from the federal law enforcement agencies, and detectives from the NYPD. These detectives and special agents, our partners, are so good at what they do, not just because of their investigative skills, which they have, and not just because they work hard, which they do. It's because of how they listen to people, how they talk to people. They listen carefully. They talk to people with respect. They earn trust. And it is that trust that allows us to charge these murders. Because of the way the federal statutes work, most of our murder cases are gang or drug related. That's what makes them federal crimes. What that means is that most of our murder cases involve gang members or drug dealers shooting at their rivals. And what that means is that most of our murder victims were themselves gang members or drug dealers. There are exceptions, of course, cases in which a completely innocent victim is hit by a stray bullet, killed only because that person was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Those cases are gut-wrenching and incredibly important. But in most of our murder cases, the victims were themselves criminals. Sometimes our victims had committed serious acts of violence. Sometimes our murder victims were themselves murderers. Now, there are many reasons why it doesn't matter what our victims did. Whatever wrongs they committed, whatever harms they inflicted on others, a life was taken. That is reason enough to do these cases. But I think there is a sense in which these cases in which the victim is someone we might otherwise have investigated and prosecuted. These cases are the measure of who we are as prosecutors, as attorneys, as members of law enforcement. Because in these cases, there will be no press. There will be no glory. If these cases go to trial, the victim's family will be there. The defendant's family will be there. And otherwise, the gallery will probably be empty. So when VOC AUSAs, when our detectives and special agents devote themselves to these cases, give of themselves to these cases, they are not doing it for the roar of the crowd. They are doing it for that small, quiet voice that demands justice. That is what VOC AUSAs do every day. That is what our detectives and special agents do every day. When we make an arrest in one of these cases, we inform the family of the victim. Sometimes, too often, the response in substance is, "I thought no one cared." That is heartbreaking. But the fact that we do care and what that says about what we stand for speaks to the depth and meaning of these cases. The Stimson Medal is given to individuals, but for me, this award is for all the members of VOC, past, present, and future, for our special agents and detectives, for all who pursue this noble calling. Thank you.
Congratulations, Michael. I do want to at least virtually award you with your Stimson Medal. Congratulations. Let me clap for you as well. Well done, well done, well done. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those are our 4 rising stars. And I want to say, although we are saluting them tonight, I do want to thank everyone who works in your respective offices for what you do. I don't know if you've heard, but the New York City Bar is called the Bar of Hope for the next 2 years. And hearing all about what you do gives us more hope. So thank you so much. Now I'm going to turn it over to our one and only Stimson Medal Chair, Mr. Hellerer. Take it away.
Thanks very much, Sheila. On behalf of the committee, we'd really like to send our deep congratulations to all the winners for your extraordinary accomplishments and your wonderful presentations this evening. I hope maybe each of you will listen and you can hear the collective standing ovation that you're receiving from all the people who are participating virtually in the program this evening. Once again, your work is tremendous. It builds upon the work that Bob has talked about and the traditions of both offices. Before we close, on behalf of the committee, I'd just like to offer a few comments. As noted this evening, the standards of excellence and integrity and public service celebrated tonight, they don't just happen. They require constant attention and effort, and yes, often courage. Protecting the rule of law in our fundamental legal institutions and traditions is critical to our American system of government. This is particularly true these days when institutions come under attack on a regular basis. We must take special note of Jeff Berman, the U.S. Attorney in the Southern District, and his courage in standing up to the efforts of the Attorney General to compromise the integrity of the Southern District of New York. Jeff has always been a great supporter of the award, and I know he's participating with us tonight. But these 2 great offices are the jewels of the justice system, and they must be protected. We trust that the AUSAs, who are on the front lines of protecting the rule of law, will continue to work to preserve the principles, the traditions that we've talked about tonight, including integrity and independence. You can rest assured that the alumni of both offices, as well as the members of the City Bar and the New York legal community as a whole, stand squarely behind your efforts to continue that mission and to honor the legacy emblemized by the Stimson Medal. We want to express our appreciation to the City Bar and the staff for making this virtual ceremony possible this evening. We also want to thank all of you for coming, and we look forward to celebrating the medal next year in person at the City Bar Great Hall. Thank you very much for coming this evening. This concludes our ceremony.